So my friends, I've just seen the finale of the Mandalorian Season 3. This video will contain spoilers, so if you have not seen it yet, click off now and click back on this video once you have. So overall, I'm going to say this episode was disappointing. Sure, it was a good episode, I think it was a good episode, but I felt like it was way too rushed. This episode needed to be way longer than what it was. And there were also a lot of story choices that I thought were quite interesting, and overall I thought the episode was very weak as well, and I'll explain everything to you guys right now. So firstly, the pros of the episode. I like to say the action was really good. There was a very cool big battle scene with all the Mandalorians flying in. A really great battle scene with bo-katan, Grogu, and Mando against Moff Gideon. And as always, the visuals and music were great, but I feel like the writing could have been so much better. So firstly, this episode had no tension at all. I don't remember seeing one Mandalorian dying in this whole entire episode, and I just feel like Moff Gideon's new army just didn't pay off. Like, we watched episode 7, right? And there was just such a great and big threat that was shown, and then there was just no payoff for that in this episode. The good guys won too easy, in my opinion. And while we're on the topic of Moff Gideon, I feel like he was kind of like an afterthought. So he comes in the last 2 episodes, and then he just dies. And I felt like we could have had so much more with this character. There was so much potential, especially with the cloning, right? So we introduced these clones of Moff Gideon, and then they just get destroyed instantly. Like, for them to build up this cloning so much across these episodes, I just felt like the payoff was nothing. It was kind of pointless and for no reason, unless we see it somehow pop up again, because I just had so much intrigue about what Moff Gideon was doing, and then he just gets wiped out. Another thing was there was no mythosaur. Well, sure, we had him teased at the end of episode 8, but we had him teased at the end of episode 2, and it was teased in pretty much the same way, where he opens his eye up in the water. Like, I really felt like we we're going to see the mythosaur in action, because it was teased in episode 2, and nothing happened for the whole entire season until he gets teased again. I just felt like that was disappointing. Like, if this was going to be the case, I reckon we should have not showed the mythosaur until the end of episode 8 like they did, and then there would have been more hype surrounding season 4. People like, oh my god, the mythosaur is revealed, we're going to see him next season, blah blah blah. But no, we already knew that from episode 2. The next thing I want to talk about is the Darksaber. So the Darksaber has been a big build up since the end of season 1 when it was revealed, and then season 2 and 3 when bo-katan came into the equation. There's been a lot of build up of her wanting to get a Darksaber, and there's been a big build up of her, leading all of the Mandalorian clans with the Darksaber. And now when all of this has finally happened, the Darksaber gets destroyed. However, I feel like I might be a little bit too critical, and I feel like there is a chance the Darksaber could be reforged in season 4. At the end, we see Paz Vizsla's son being, I guess, baptized and properly brought into the creed, but there was no acknowledgement of Paz Vizsla's sacrifice. And for the kid, his father just died, and there was no acknowledgement of this at all, and I thought that was a little weird and a little bit out of place. Again, I felt like the ride in this episode was just weak. They played it too safe, and a lot of that emotional weight that we had in the previous season just seems gone now. Like, for example, IG-11 is back. Now, I'm personally not a fan of this, because IG-11's sacrifice at the end of season 1 was just such a great and emotional scene, but now all that emotional weight is just removed because, he's back and fully operational. And while we're in a topic for emotional weight, the end of season 2 was undone because Grogu left with Luke, which was incredibly emotional for us and for Mandalorian Din Djarin, but then he was reunited with Mandalorian, and not even in his own show. And there was just other little things in this episode, like, do you remember in episode 4 when the Mandalorians were chasing that big bird dragon thing and their fuel and their jetpacks ran out? Well, in this episode, we had the Mandalorians basically fly from space, just at the top of the atmosphere, and fly all the way to the ground on Mandalore. Like, that's a pretty long journey, but for some reason that was fine. They didn't run out of fuel, but then they just can't chase the bird. A little bit of inconsistency there, I would say. And I've also seen people saying that they thought the Praetorian guards died too easily. I can agree with that, but I thought that whole sequence was a fun sequence and that was fine. But I guess you could argue this whole episode, the good guys did win too easily. Like, let's finally make an episode not as safe as this, and let's experience some loss. And I thought we were going to experience some loss in this episode, because it was teased that we were not going to be ready for this episode, and that we were going to regret asking for more, and tears would be had, but that did not happen. So I've rambled on for way too long about this episode, but I do have so many more things to say. So if you guys want to see more videos on this, then let me know in the comment section below. But apart from that, let me know your guys' thoughts on this episode below. Were you guys a fan of this episode, or were you not? Thanks for watching, guys.